one and all to episode 17 of the Crooke and Candle podcast. It is I, Ozzy and Trejen, and
Trejen on Tejas. What's up, you guys?
Yeah, I hope you guys are doing good. Dude, before we start, before we even started this episode, we reached 200 subscribers on the YouTube channel, which is fucking A. Fucking A, man. Like, thank all of you guys. In fact, that video we did on Dino is almost to 10,000 views. In fact, I was actually kind of blown away. And we kind of talked about this in the previous episode, so we're not going to go too deep on that. But it's funny how I think it was February 20th is when that came out.
Yeah,
that episode came out.
Yeah,
and now it's almost at 10,000 views. I type in Dino Samisi on the YouTube search bar. It's the first video at the top.
Wow.
So
there's a lot of interest.
Yeah, there was a lot of interest. And in fact, we talked about this in the previous episode, but I think you said April we're planning on going back out.
Yeah,
to Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, really, what I want to do is definitely I want to get a interview with Mouse. And I'd love to get one with Todd as well. And kind of the way where the podcast is moving with interviews and stuff like that. We don't have anyone on today, but right. We definitely have more people planned. It's just getting them.
Yeah, eventually the plan is to get more people who are creative people to just come on the show and just be able to talk about what it's like for them being a creative and all that stuff. And I think there is a big interest in that kind
how
of
they
stuff.
Got there.
Yeah, how they got there, what was their journey, how did they start, I think it's very interesting. And, obviously that's where you guys, why you guys decided to watch that video.
So you're finding the interest there as well. So yeah, that's where we're going to be going. Also, just as a quick little aside, I've noticed on the analytics that, because I'm saying this mainly for the YouTube page, if you're watching these videos on YouTube, I saw that there was 93% of people who are not subscribed who are watching our videos. So if you at any point find value in these videos and you like them, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, leave a comment. It means a lot. We also read all the comments, and I try to make sure to respond to every single one of them. In fact, if there's a good comment at any point in any of our episodes, I make sure to highlight them in these videos. So, or the podcast in general. So, do all that. But in any case, let's move on. We need to start this right. How's your week been? This week has been busy. Yeah. I've been busy, but exciting. At the beginning of the year, not only did we did a podcast. Here comes the dogs. Yeah, we did a podcast on new. I think it was called New Year, New You, and we talked a lot about what we'd been planning on doing for the new year. Yeah, and we've been doing it. It's been good. I was having a conversation with someone recently, and I said, the way it seems to go for me as a creative person is when I'm engaged in the things that I'm passionate about, that I enjoy and that are creative, my life goes a lot better. I'm not as depressed. I'm not anxious. I feel really good. And actually, I'd have to say, getting tapped for that film project that we got coming up.
Yeah, which we'll definitely talk about more. In fact, we want to get August. Yeah, we want to get him on the podcast and talk to him about his his film journey and all that kind of stuff, and that project, because I think that's going to be a really cool project to work on.
Yeah, and it's cool to see. I was just really inspired by it because in today's age, and that's kind of because we wanted to talk about kind of popular culture today, just have a conversation about it. But popular culture isn't necessarily people making content on TikTok or YouTube and dancing around and talking about stupid shit.
Right.
It was really inspirational to see a young person
who's like, I want to do this. And right when we talked, you know, he was a client, a tattoo client. Right as we were talking about it, I was like, this is awesome. Because it, you know, and we had a really good conversation. That's why I want to get him on, because we have a great. I've tattooed him twice, and we've had incredible conversations each time I tattooed him. And it was always one of those things, both times, where the tattoo was not something that should have taken 3 hours. It should have taken an hour, and both times it was like 3 hours, and it wasn't that I was really going slow. It was that we were just talking so much. We were deep in conversation, talking about some really interesting stuff. And so I was taking my time. I did not charge him for 3 hours also. I only charged him for the hour. And again, with what everyone has all been through the last couple years with the bug that's in society these days and around the world, there's been a lot of disconnection. You know, you're not able to really, I mean, things are kind of getting back into
we're getting
a normal thing. I think on the 15th they're gonna,
I want to say it was the 13th.
13th they're gonna get rid of the mask mandates.
I want to say it's the next Saturday.
Yeah,
so yeah, we're getting
we're getting back there. But even me, like, there was a show at El Corazon and just recently, and I looked at it. The band Immolation from New York was out, and I love that band. I'm a death metal band, and I've been I really love their music since they came out. And I was like, oh, Immolation. And I thought about like going to El Corazon. It's been so freaking long since I've been there, but I was just like, nah, not yet. I'm not ready to dive back into, you know, being around tons of people. And, you know, I have to say this because it was my old friend Missy Barons, who I want to interview as well. On her, I think it was her Facebook page, she's got this look, and you know, I love Missy. She's got this really great smirk that she makes. And there's a picture of her just with this smirk on her face. And, you know, she comes from my time. And I remember her as like totally punk rock chick, you know, and political and stuff like that. And so her little picture said, it said something like, realize I have a healthy distrust of, how'd she say it? I have a healthy distrust of authority, but I am vaccinated. And that said a lot to me, because I'm like, yeah, I do too. I don't just trust everything that comes out of, you know, the government or what's being said. But, you know, I definitely want to be smart about things. And yeah, I'm vaxxed, I'm boosted. So
common sense.
Yeah, I feel safer, but I still don't, you know, I'm not really ready to dive back into.
Well, don't be reckless.
Yeah.
Like, be smart. Don't do stupid shit. Like, especially if you're older, like, especially in your case, it's like, dude, yeah, you got some shit to lose.
Yeah.
So it's like, last thing you want is to get sick.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, actually, I'm going to tell a quick story.
Okay.
So come on up, Bishop. This had to be like 2017. I was living in Portland, and it was a really weird situation. The next 2018, I moved to Seattle, but it was right before. And I remember I was walking this guy, and I lived by a Fred Meyer. We walked to Fred Meyer. And as we're coming back, I'm crossing this street. And all of a sudden, I had a full-on like Final Destination moment. Or something, it wasn't a voice, but this thing came through, and it was like, you are going to die. And again, it wasn't a voice. It was more telepathic, if you will.
More like a gut feeling.
No, I mean, it was, I can't explain it as a voice. And, you know, I was probably having some sort of flashback for all I know, because like when I've done ayahuasca, which is the constituent ingredient is dimethyltryptamine, one of the most powerful psychedelics known to man, there were times where during my ceremony that I'm sitting there meditating, and just I'm inside my brain. Things would come across, but I couldn't call it a voice. But it was like a voice, but it wasn't a voice. It just hit my head, my brain. So this happened too. I got a cry. You are going to die, and I paused in the middle of the street.
Sure.
And then I was like, oh shit, I'm in the middle of the street, and I ran across. And I mean, I got to the other side of the street. I'm like, what was that? What was that? And so then I start walking Bishop down the street, and a car comes, and I'm like, oh my God. And I got all nervous, and I only had to walk like a couple blocks, but I was all paranoid. And I remember as I was walking, I was like, you know what? If I was about to get on a plane right now, I wouldn't get on it. I mean, it kind of shook me. And months later, I talked to two different people that were a little older, and I started telling them the story, and both of them were like, before I got to, you're going to die, they both already knew what I was about to say. And they're like, oh, like, did you get, like, you're going to die or something? I'm like, yeah. And both of them were like, oh, yeah, mortality hit you. And I've had a lot of, people pass away around me over the years. So I understand death. I know it happens. But I got hit with my mortality, apparently. It was something that really rang out for me. And it made me, at that point, I started looking at it. Because when I, sometimes I'll actually, a lot of times I look at my shit, as it were.
Yeah.
What do I say I want to do? And what am I doing about it? Am I not doing anything about it? Stuff like that. So when that happened, I was like, damn, like there's a lot of things that I do want to do that I haven't accomplished yet. And I don't want to fucking die. I mean, my whole goal has always been to be able to face stepping into that undiscovered country, as it were, and be okay. I think anyone always wants to live one more day, but I definitely don't want to, face death and know that there were all of these things that I could have done and that I said I wanted to do, but I didn't. And so, like, I don't want to face death with regrets of not doing stuff. So fast forward to 2020, when this pandemic hit, and I remember when it was happening, you were like, oh, blah, 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 the pandemic. And I was like, oh man, they've had avian flu and mad cow disease and this and that, and Ebola showed up in Atlanta. I can't remember what year. And you were like, no, man, I think this is really serious.
Yeah.
And he showed me some videos of like China, and they're walking around in hazmat suits.
Yeah, there were some gnarly videos coming out.
Spraying whatever.
Yeah, people getting welded into their fucking houses.
Yeah.
And shit. That was just crazy.
So yeah, that was. So when that happened, I was like, okay, I had that experience where I got hit with my mortality. And it landed, let me tell you.
Sure.
So when that was going on, I was like, damn, well, there's this thing happening right now. It's killing people. I don't want to fucking die right now.
Yeah.
I've actually, since I had that experience in 2017, the following years, I've been working hard towards the goals that I've really had and set for myself and stuff like that. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, hey, I've been making these moves. I've been doing good. I don't want to, and I'm on a roll. I don't want to die right now. So I was like, I'm going to pay attention to, people that seem to make sense. And, whatever anyone else thinks, I don't care. I'm going to do what I need to do to stay safe. Because I don't want to put myself in jeopardy, because I have goals. I like this podcast was one of those goals that has come to fruition, and I'm actually seeing it grow. Mm-hmm. And that makes me feel really good, So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your week because you said you were feeling like blah.
Yeah, it's been kind of meh.
Meh. Why? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Money.
Well, I mean, I think that's a part of it. I don't think that's the sole reason though. Like just this week, I don't know. I just haven't felt the same sense of motivation recently. Like, it's just probably one of those weeks. It's hard to explain. You know, it's like because I have shit I can do, but especially this weekend, like. Now I did get like do some recording shit for my my other side project and stuff like that. But I haven't really put in as much work this weekend. Like, and it's like in fact, kind of getting to your sense of mortality. Like I, you know, because that's the thing. It's like I feel the older you get, you do. You do kind of have to, you kind of come into terms with like how much time you've wasted and shit.
Yes.
And, you know, and like this weekend, I've kind of felt guilty because it's like, I know there are things I could be doing, but I've kind of just not done that shit. And I don't know why. It's like, it's just that sense of motivation. I haven't really had it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change by next week because sometimes that shit comes and goes. Sometimes you just feel unmotivated.
I think that's a normal thing for a lot of artists and creatives.
Sure, and I think another part of it also comes down to not to get too geopolitical on this podcast. The fucking war,
the Ukraine, and
that whole situation.
Yeah,
because that's a fucked up
situation. It is.
You know, and it's like, because it's kind of funny too, because like when I started paying attention to that, and just especially when like Putin was like talking about like, oh, we're gonna put our nukes on high alert.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, fuck.
Yeah, I saw some videos that were like, is this about to be World War III?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people throwing that around.
Which, that's kind of concerning.
Yeah, who knows? At this point, it seems. I'm not going to get too into that because, like, I don't want to.
That's a whole totally different.
Yeah, I don't want to get in. I don't want to get in. I don't want to get things wrong. But yeah, paying attention to that. If anything, like paying attention to that, it's definitely kind of highlighted. Because it made me think, like, okay, let's say fucking there were nukes launched.
Yeah.
And Ukraine got bombed, and then next thing we know, we're getting bombed. Like imagine the game Fallout, right?
Yeah.
So like imagine if we ended up going into a Mad Max dystopia.
Oh, totally. No. Actually, I'm 50, so I'm from the generation where the Cold War was going on. And literally, when I was in high school, if you would have asked a high schooler at that time, what do you think about the Cold War between Russia and America? They would have something to say about it because we knew about it. We were always really kind of sketched out about the tension that was constantly going on between Russia and the United States and nukes. And, one of my favorite movies back then was War Games with Matthew Broderick. Mm-hmm. Good evening, Professor Falcon. Would you like to play a game of chess? So we were well aware, and we've had conflicts since then, since the Cold War kind of started. Definitely, everyone's been around for things that have happened over the past 30 years or so. But this is a new level of suck right now going on because it's just anyways. Actually, that kind of leads into what I want to talk about because a lot of times, especially especially the last couple of years and dealing with the pandemic and now this stuff, that stuff is really causes anxiety, and people are more depressed nowadays because of the lack of being able to interact, and there's been all this crap going on.
Yeah.
And what we normally do as people, and that's why it's hard. Like, you could be working and you're dealing with a crappy boss or and shitty clients and stuff like that, and you're getting into an argument with your girlfriend or going through a breakup or whatever. And the thing that we do is we go and do things to take our mind off. We go to the movies.
Yeah,
we go to a baseball game.
Yeah,
we go
a sort of escape.
Yeah, to take your mind off of it.
Yeah.
And that stuff has really, I mean, again, it's coming back, but there was all this stress and there was nothing you could really do to blow off steam.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, I think a lot of things where like people are freaking out at airports or just being shitty.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with people's stress levels, and that's definitely something that's going on right now. And so people want to get a little bit of their escapism in, but there's either things that you can't really do, or you still might not feel safe, like me going to a show indoors. But it can be something like, again, video games, movies, stuff like that. But the last 5 years, 10 years even.
Yeah, I would say the last 10 years.
10 years, there's been this just kind of constant rollout of crappy things. Like, again, I would say movies, video games. I'm not super stoked on music that much even right now, especially popular music.
I would like to apologize for the dog chewing on the bone because you could clearly hear it.
Go,
dude.
go,
If you're gonna chew on the bone,
yeah.
Go over there.
Chomp.
Yeah,
he's gonna chomp over by you. But yeah, I mean, it's like, here, let me just ask you the question: what? Because you've seen it, we've had these conversations where things like, okay, beloved IPs, movies are being completely changed. And I have an idea of what happened and why that's happening, but things that you may have loved all of a sudden kind of changed, and it wasn't as good. It was actually worse, really worse in many cases. And if you have anything critical to say about it, you're called,
a bigot,
or a phobe or
right.
Whatever. It's just, so the people that are creating the content that we normally look to for escapism, but yeah, the things that we used to look to for that escapism to take our kind of stress away are just crappy. They don't give you a good story. They don't, they preach at you in video games, in comics.
Right.
They don't just tell a good story. I tend to, get into watching, series, anything that's, I watched Fringe, this show that's, it ended. They did 5 seasons, but it ended, and it was great. It because they take the time and they have the time to build like character arcs and stuff like that. You care about the characters.
Yeah.
And there's movies today where you absolutely don't care about anyone. You're just
right.
watching this movie, and I would talk about Star Wars. Star Wars, the original Star Wars. The original Star Wars, you cared about the freaking droids.
Yeah.
C-3PO and R2-D2 and the big walking carpet that just went at Chewbacca, You cared about those characters. And you don't see that a lot anymore. So my question to you was, is there anything or any kind of content, games, anything that you're enjoying right now?
Well, as far as like content I've been enjoying recently, I got back into this game, Stalker. Stalker, I actually been playing the mod Stalker Anomaly, which basically, because there's this game, which by the way, actually talking about Ukraine, that was made by a Ukrainian developer back in the day, Stalker, and they were actually working on the sequel, which who knows what the fate of that game is going to be because they're in a fucking war.
You're right.
So, which is kind of gnarly. But yeah, I've been playing that, and the reason I enjoy it is because it takes me out because yeah, talking about escape, it's like it puts me in this different world where imagine a post apocalyptic kind of situation in the Ukraine where after the Chernobyl disaster, like all these mutants started forming, and then you have all these guys called stalkers who go into the zone, as it's called, where there's all this radiation, like anomalies, like you can just be walking around and then a fucking dude walks into like an anomaly and they just spin in the air and blow up, stuff like that. It's just crazy shit. But there's also all this like kind of lore in the game where it's like interesting. It's like it's this world that is built from the ground up. Now, the game itself is kind of jank in a way, because like when the game was made, the engine they were using was not well optimized. So, but to see fans kind of take that and make it something like that's, well, it works and feels more modern, and overall it's fun. It's a fun game that immerses you into this world. Like, yeah, it does feel like a thing that is kind of rare. Now, I want to say, to be a little bit optimistic, I find that I'm seeing more and more people trying to get back to that. And, but of course, like speaking about popular culture, yeah, there's been this massive shift, at least, especially in the West. I have to make that distinction because when it comes to whether it's media, movies, comic books, TV, like there's been this massive push of trying to essentially hit check boxes, so to speak.
It's like Korea's doing movies like Squid Game, stuff like that people loved.
Yeah.
And definitely Japan's got it going on when it comes to their storytelling through manga.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that we're seeing that explode, but we're seeing Western comics just dying.
And that's the thing too. It kind of made me, because I was actually thinking a little bit more, because you see all these, like for example, Marvel comics. Like there was like what was it, last year or the year before that, where there was that, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was like some like New Mutants X-Men thing, where it like two of the characters was fucking what, Snowflake and Safe Space,
right.
Which is like, talk about not having like just having no self-awareness whatsoever, because it's like, first of all, think of how ridiculous that is,
right?
Like it's like no. And it's like I'm trying to tread lightly here, because here's the thing. It's like, I want to make this very clear. Because when we because people have been talking more about having more inclusion and diversity in media and whatnot, and I'm all for that. I'm all for representation. That's fine. The thing I get annoyed with is how they're trying to fit, say, a round peg in a square hole, and they're trying to force it in there. And it made me wonder, like, why is it? Because some people, when especially like you'll see certain YouTubers talk about that, and it's like, dude, don't force things where it doesn't belong and shit like that. And it's like, because here's the thing, it's like, to me, I don't care if there's a trans character or a gay character or black, white, yellow, fucking unicorn. I don't care about that. That's fine. I care about the end product.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and because, in fact, Stan Lee, back in the day, rest in peace, Stan Lee, the man who was the godfather of like Marvel, essentially, like he talked about how important it is, because that's the thing people forget. It's like, because there are people that have this misconception that comic books back in the day were not progressive or something like that. Yeah. And in some ways they could have been, but the thing is, like, for example, the X-Men. Yeah. Like the X-Men, that was basically a fucking allegory for what am I trying to say? For like different minorities, basically.
Okay.
That's what it was, because you have the mutants who are not fucking like everyone else.
They're the others.
Yeah, they're others.
Yeah.
And so in a way, it's like that. It was making a point within the story, within those stories. But the reason why shit like the X-Men worked so well is because they were telling good stories.
Right.
That was the focus.
Right.
People very often have asked me, who do you write for? And basically, I write for myself.
Yeah.
Because if you can please yourself, if you can write a story that you're excited by, I hate to say this, but you're no different, and I'm no different than millions of other people. And if we like something, there are bound to be other people who like it too. But I think one mistake writers make sometimes, they don't try to write something that excites them, but they write something that they think will excite them. But you can't know them. You can only know yourself. So my rule has always been to write a story that I'm interested in, and to hope that enough people have the same taste that I do.
Yeah, go ahead and have your message. But in fact, I even touched upon this on, what was it, episode 16, where I was getting tattooed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, like, listen, you can add a message. You can add a message to your story or your media, like even video games. I'm all for having a message, but does it serve the story? It does by the end of the piece of media. Like, is it good? Mm-hmm. Because the fact of the matter is, if you make a piece of media and you're trying to shoe in a message about being anti-racist, for example, like, okay, that's a cool message. Is the story good? If the answer is no,
Right.
well, then your message doesn't mean shit, because no one's going to want to read it or take part in it. For example, there was or even get certain situations like that Cowboy Bebop Netflix show, which, Kali, can you stop? Let me. So I'm an anime person. I like watching, especially much older stuff, because there's definitely a good amount of stuff within that the late 80s to early 90s, mid 90s, even early 2000s, where there was a lot of cool shit coming out at that time. There's a lot of bad shit too, but there was a lot of cool shit. For example, Cowboy Bebop, the anime, like, that was super progressive for the time, because it was very diverse. There was a lot of like different races. Like, there was a fucking Native American guy who's the old wise elder, like, giving the main character's advice. Like, the main character, Spike, is fucking Jewish, and stuff like that. So, like, that was very progressive.
Yeah.
But then you have the Netflix show where it's like, for example, there's one character in it, in the original anime. What's his name?
Hi guys, future Ozzy here. The character I was thinking about from Cowboy Bebop, but I couldn't remember at the top of my head at the time when I was recording that, was the character Gren. So anyways, let's get back to the podcast.
Was like the friend of the main villain, Vicious, who, like, they fought in a war on Mars or something like that. They were close buddies. Then Vicious sells him out, and he gets thrown in prison, and he's experimented on by forcing him to take drugs, which basically turns him into a female, basically, or like, he grows tits and shit.
Okay.
But he was forced to do that.
And this is Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop,
Okay,
the anime. And so now essentially he was not, because there are definitely people that try to, like, especially when it comes to the Netflix show, they took that as, oh, well, clearly this guy's a trans person, when that's not the case. Because here's the thing about, because here's the thing, if you're going to go that route, it's like, that doesn't make sense, because most people who are trans, they choose to be that. And
he didn't choose to be
he didn't choose to be that. And in a way, he was this tragic character, but some people took that to mean as, oh, well, this is obviously painting trans people as, like, evil or something like that. It's like, what? What are you talking about? That makes no sense at all. Like, and
Well, people are reading into it something that's
they're
not
trying
there.
to they're trying to extrapolate a certain meaning where it's not there.
Yeah.
And even I was even like reading interviews, and I'm like, I don't understand that. So what did they do? They got a trans or non-binary actor to play a trans woman version of this character, dressed in drag, and and it's like, I'm like, this is not this that is like, which here's the thing. If there are people that'll watch that Netflix version of that show and you liked it, cool for you.
Good for you.
Good for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Not many people did. And guess what fucking happened? It got canceled.
Yeah.
And
the people that didn't like it were the people that were into the original.
Well, first of all, it's like
Version
that show, like there's no point of that show existing, to be honest. And I find it funny because it's like they made that show, but then they also had the original anime on Netflix. So it's like, why would I watch that? Why? I'll just watch the anime.
Yeah.
Because A, it's still good, and B, like it's way more smarter than I think some people were trying to not give it credit for.
Yeah.
Because it was, and that's the thing. The thing that I liked that show, that original anime, the reason I liked it was because it did touch on certain subjects in a very understated way. Like it touched on specific subjects in a way that wasn't in your face
Preachy.
and wasn't it wasn't trying to like speak to you like you're an idiot.
Right.
And I think the problem too with a lot of these or hell, even like that fucking new Amazon show for Lord of the Rings. Like, here's the thing. I like, you want to make dwarves that are black women. Okay, that's fine and all. That's cool, but I just feel, and I'm not the only one. In fact, I remember talking to some of my coworkers who mentioned it, and and I'm like, oh, what did you think about it? Because I didn't want to watch it. I didn't care. But seeing people like kind of outside of like Twitter, like give their opinions on, they're like, yeah, I don't think I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they decided to make this.
Well, is it money?
Yeah.
But that's the weird part. It's like, okay, you have the money to make something. Why wouldn't you make it good?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, because like, what was there was that one super fan video.
Oh yeah.
Where it's
yeah.
like, oh man, like there's like some gay dude who's like, oh, what if Sauron was super hot or some shit
Under his mask.
under his mask?
Yeah.
It's like,
If like Sauron is hot, I feel like people will be like, I can fix him.
he's fucking evil.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that makes what? Like, and first of all, I think the reason why that didn't land, that show, it's because it was clear they were not marketing to the fans at all.
Right.
In fact, like there was like one point people were bringing up, which is like the dwarf women in that show. Apparently in the actual Lord of the Rings lore,
Yeah.
dwarf women have beards.
Right.
Like that, because
Yeah.
so
It is in there.
It is in there.
Yeah.
It is an actual thing. j.r.r. Tolkien like made sure to make that a detail,
Yeah.
and yet you don't have that in the show, which showed that they obviously didn't. And it's like not even that, but it's also like stuff like they decided to get Lord of the Rings advisors who know what the fuck they're talking about. They got people who are advisors for the Game of Thrones show. It's like, why would you do that? Why not get people who understand Lord of the Rings instead of Game of Thrones advice?
Actually, I saw a little clip of I can't remember who it was, but it was someone who was really part of the development team for this. And I guess the question gets asked about the dwarves and their beards.
Right.
And the guy goes, oh, yeah, that's not canon. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, that
and then
guy
everyone's like, what do you mean?
Yes,
it
guy
is.
totally did not know what he was talking
Yeah,
about.
he's like, yeah, it wasn't in any of the books. He didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, everyone was like, yes.
Yeah, like
it
immediately
was.
all fans were like pointing out that this guy did not know what he was talking about. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? It was in the lore. If
Yeah.
you actually knew what you were talking about, And of course, what they tried to fucking talk down to these people, like, oh, you're just, you're bigots. It's like, no,
Yeah.
that's not the case at all.
Well, it sucks to not be able to be critical without being.
Well, and that's the thing that's really annoying, and I think there's, especially with this Lord of the Rings shit, I'm starting kind of to see the tide turn a little bit, where people are having enough of this bullshit, where this gaslighting shit, where like somehow the fans are like, the same happened with the Cowboy Bebop show when all these people, these fans were like voicing their concerns, and the thing I would notice is like media, especially media, which I find journalism like very, very. Cully, you're ruining my flow here, girl. So, anyways, back to what I was saying. So, like the thing, like with the media, like I find very disconcerting, is like I'll see like these journalists like basically play like defense for these corporations who are making these products, and basically trying to paint any fans who actually give a shit as somehow these alt-right bigots and shit like that. And it's like, how is that going to help these products from how are these products going to succeed if all you're doing is you're making these people who would otherwise want to give it a chance, you're just turning them away.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense at all.
Well, actually, I was God, I really wish I could remember the video of the guy that I watched. It was a YouTube video, and he made a really interesting point, especially he was talking about movies these days. And he was trying to explain, because people can see movies used to be like this, and then 10 years ago this real shift started happening.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what's going on? And he was like, well, because I think he was in the movie industry at some point. He wasn't anymore. But he goes, well, what has happened is the veterans of the movie industry, the directors, cinematographers, writers, they were being paid, $250,000 for a job.
Yeah.
But corporations, being what corporations are, they're like, well, we got this whole new group of young people, and we can pay them $75,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, yeah.
And see, the young people, as culture changes, the young people tend to, when you're younger, you tend to glom on to, again, you're following your peers more often than not. So you glom on to what are the talking points, what is the new way of looking at things, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so the people that are in film school or whatever, when they're coming out, they have these ideas, and now they're put into positions of power, basically. And so what they're doing, because there's the saying, you can't, you can make some people happy some of the time, but you can't make all people happy all of the time.
Right.
And so they're sitting there spending all this time trying to make, certain people happy.
Yeah, certain groups.
And again, in life, like this is when it comes to say representation in life, unless you live in a weird little pocket where there's just everyone's exactly the same. Normally you go to work, and you have people that are of different races.
Yeah.
You have a certain amount of females, a certain amount of males. You might have a certain amount of heterosexuals and gays and trans, and that's life.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're making a movie, sure, put those different people in it.
Yeah.
Because that's life.
Yeah.
But give us a good story.
Yeah. Make sure it's good.
Yeah, don't, because it seems like a lot of times, especially in the Twitter world, and where everyone, these people, a lot of people have this really loud voice, and
Yeah.
I'm like, so you can't enjoy a movie unless all the people in it are exactly like you.
Which that kind of mentality now.
And again, I cared about. I was really upset when R2D2 got his head blown off at the beginning. When they blew up the Death Star.
Yeah.
Right before Luke fucking launched
Right.
his thing. That upset me.
Yeah.
Okay. I liked that character.
Right.
I liked his little attitude when he, but it wasn't even a human.
Right.
It was a robot. And
Right.
and same Chewbacca, same thing. Like I cared about that character. He wasn't even the same species as me. Mm-hmm. I would never be like, well, Star Wars is all right, but they should have made the Wookiee a biracial guy like me. I'm not feeling represented.
Right.
So I don't like it.
Right.
And that's just stupid.
I don't understand that. In fact, speaking of games, for example, Elden Ring came out, which I want to play that. That looks pretty good. So Elden Ring came out, and first off, there was all this conversation especially on Twitter, a bunch of people who bought the game that started to complain about the game being too hard. It's super fucking hard. It doesn't have an easy mode. I guess I'm just gonna refund it. It's like, why did you buy the game?
Yeah.
First of all, From Software, the guys who made that game, had no illusions at all that this game was going to be easy, and yet you bought it anyway.
Well, that's like
that's stupid.
That's like you go, I want to learn to play chess.
Right.
So you buy a chess set.
Right.
You buy a chess set. You bring it home. You're like, Dad, let's play some chess.
Right.
And I beat you.
Yeah.
And I beat you.
Yeah.
And I beat you.
Yeah.
Because I know how to play the game.
Yeah, you know how to play the game.
I have experience behind it. And so you're like, fuck chess.
Right.
Instead of going, wow. And actually, there's the thing. You want to get better at something, you play someone who's better than you.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah.
I mean, what's the point? Actually, I'm like, if you want to play if that is what upsets you about the game, maybe you shouldn't buy games, and what you should do
Play
instead.
Farmville.
No. don't even play the video game. Just watch YouTube videos of people playing the game that know how to play the game.
Oh, dude. Speaking of getting, wanting to get better, dude, fighting games is a great example. In fact, I remember, Street Fighter games like that. So, I come from a generation where to learn how to input all those combos and
I hate those fucking games. I that's funny. Looking back, I was like, I didn't say, man, I wish it was easier. I just was like, I can't figure out all the combos, so I just wouldn't play it.
But here's the thing. I came from a generation where you didn't have all this information. You just only had what they gave you, and you just had to figure it out on your own. And either you sucked or you fucking got better. But now we live in this generation where if you want to get better at, say, Street Fighter 5, there's all these people making videos showing you
how to do it.
Here's how to tech projectiles so you can not take damage. Here's how to input these combos for Ryu or something like that. There's all these videos showing you all these tips and tricks. So if you really wanted to learn how to play the game, it's there. It's available. It's in the culture. There are people that are trying to make it more accessible, but then you have these people like, but it's too hard. It's do you really want to play the game or not? Because I just think a lot of these people that are bitching, for example, going back to Elden Ring, all these people that are bitching about it, it's first of all, these games have been like this for a long time. Every single game from Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, fucking Bloodborne, and then Elden Ring. Sekiro, all these games, they're all hard. They were made that way.
Yeah.
And they're
supposed to be a challenge.
Supposed to be a challenge. In fact, Hidetaka Miyazaki actually gave a great quote because there's a lot of these people trying to say, well, we need to have an easy difficulty because it leaves certain people with disabilities out, which first of all, it's one thing to talk about accessibility, but when you're trying to use disabilities as a way to just express that you're just shitty at a game, like come on, fuck yourself. But and here's the thing, I'm all for accessibility, like, but I've seen people who like literally, like I think there was one guy who had one hand, like because his other hand's fucked up, play Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and like beat the game with one hand. It's like, now granted, it could have been easier if you had a dedicated controller,
right?
You know, obviously, but there are people that are doing shit like that. That I've seen like videos of, like there's this one dude who made this really cool like 3D printed modification for DualShock 4, where you could just play a game with one hand.
Oh wow!
And it's actually really cool. So I'm all for accessibility. I think that is something that you should. That the and you've been seeing strides in these game developers and publishers working towards making that a thing. So I do appreciate that, but that's a different conversation than ruining the integrity of a game just to please somebody who probably isn't that dedicated to the game at all.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
because that's the thing. It's like in fact, Hidetaka Miyazaki, because a lot of people were criticizing From Software for making the game hard. Why is there no easy difficulty? And he's like, dude, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, here's the thing. Like, I'm really bad at hard games, but whenever I beat a boss in a hard game, I feel satisfaction. That's why these games are hard. And I'm like, boom.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. And I totally agree. Because here's the thing. I got back into playing Dark Souls 1. That game is fucking hard. Really hard. I got back to I decided to play that game as I forget what class it is, where you're basically naked and you have a club. There's the Wretch or whatever it's called, or actually I don't think that's what it's called in Dark Souls. But anyways, yeah, I know. Guilty. But I got to the first boss, I believe. I think it was the first boss, where you climb up the tower to get to the bridge, to get to the main castle area at the beginning of the game. And there's this big fucking, like, you start running across the thing, and then this big fucking Minotaur motherfucker with a hammer just jumps on the bridge, and there's like no space really. It's just this one like narrow pathway, and I'm like, oh fuck. You know, so you're just like, oh shit. And it's like one of the first hard bosses because it's a big guy with a big giant club, and they could fuck you up.
Yeah.
And but I was able to beat it because, like, A, one, perseverance, B, learning how to play the game and learning the attack patterns. And then C, there's also like a fucking way to easily kill the boss by going up, like turning around. Once the guy starts coming towards you, you could just climb up the fucking, this fort, and you could just jump off and fucking hit him from above and deal massive damage. And I won, and I felt good about it.
Yeah.
And that's the appeal.
Yeah. And I think that's the appeal of and I think that's what a lot of people are wanting.
Yeah.
Is they want, content that's good. Hollywood, if you're out there listening, give us good stories. Give us good stories. The music industry, get good good artists to put out music.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Even with the Hollywood thing, it's like, dude, I think they're shitting their pants because we're starting to see this kind of, well, I wouldn't even say shift. It's been happening for a while. But the fact of the matter is, there are people that are able to nowadays be able to just circumvent Hollywood because you don't really need that shit anymore.
Yeah.
You really don't. If you want to make a good, high quality film, yes, you need money, obviously, but you don't necessarily need to go to Hollywood. There are plenty of people nowadays, and that's the thing that's so great about this modern generation. Like,
the good parts.
Yeah, the good parts of this modern generation is that as technology has gotten better, it's become more accessible. Like, even just the fact that we have this fucking camera and this setup here to do this podcast, it's like that happened because technology has progressed to the point and has become so accessible that anyone can do this.
Yeah.
And
15 years ago,
yeah,
it was a
but
totally different
Yeah, a
story.
long time ago, if you wanted to make a good film, yeah, you had to go to Hollywood, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they were the guys that had the equipment, that had, and had the money to be able to do it.
Well, that was like when I was talking to August, we were having that
Yeah.
conversation. I was like, I tend to not really watch modern Hollywood movies because they
Yeah.
don't give me what I want. But there's again the accessibility with technology now.
Yeah.
We are going to make a movie with
Yeah,
August.
yeah.
No budget. We might find a little bit of funding here and there to feed the people, but
if we can do a little crowdfunding, that will help a lot.
yeah. And I mean, there's crowdfunding now.
Yeah, even that.
You can, if you're into video games, you could be like, I want to develop a video game. And then you could get on the internet and you can
dude.
find people to help you.
There's plenty of games that have come out that have been huge, and have done well, like Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Like that game came out, like that was kickstarted a long time ago, and they made the game, and it's it was like an NES style 8-bit game, like modeled after games like Mega Man and fucking DuckTales and shit like that. And it was fun, a really fun game, and I saw the appeal. And this was, they didn't fucking go to EA, they didn't go to Electronic Arts, EA, Electronic Arts, same thing. Activision, they didn't go to Capcom. They fucking were like, we're asking people who see our vision and see what we're trying to put out and see the value in it. All we need is your money.
Yeah.
And they did that. Now, granted, there's also been plenty of Kickstarter campaigns that have been done for these kind of games that have fucking just
failed
horribly, never came out, stuff like that. So, there's a lot of failures out there, but the ones that were successful, it's like Shovel Knight, it's like, it proved that you don't need to be a big corporation in order to make really good content that people want.
Yeah.
And even comic books and, like comic books, movies, games, like that is indie's kind of the way.
Yeah.
In a way.
Actually, Dino talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
The DIY aesthetic.
Yeah.
Do it yourself. Don't, because you don't want to have to, make sacrifices for something you really believe in. I mean, you're going to make certain sacrifices always.
Yeah.
When you're creating.
Yeah, sacrifice is always needed.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
But to really give up like your integrity
Yeah.
to get the money from the big corporation to do the thing, that's when you end up really, upset at yourself.
Right.
And again, people have the ability nowadays to do it themselves, really on a level that's really never been seen before. And personally, that's kind of where I wanted to go with this conversation, was just, yes, we have these kind of tried and true types of entertainment that everyone is used to, plugging into or getting into, to provide some fun, some escapism, some take your mind off of the troubles of today, and which is what, entertainment is about, and if that's what you're looking for and you're not finding it in popular or corporate expressions of content or products that they're putting out, there are alternatives. There are people that are still passionate about storytelling. There's, they're making good games. You can get ebooks online and read stories that people have written that are excellent. There's so much out there. And I think it's really important that in this day and age, it's hold on. I'm taking that away from you. In this day and age, it's important to, support your local artists, support your local creative people.
Yeah.
They care about the people that care about them. Mm-hmm. Again, I'll do another Dino comment. Dino said something like, the only thing that really mattered to me was my friends. His people, the people that were around him and that were, near and dear to him, that's what he spent his time and effort on, because you get more out of that. You know, you're going to get more out of, you know, supporting small businesses, creative people, you know, because we're the people that we care about our clients.
Yeah.
I would never, you know, as a tattoo artist, you know, you come in, you're like, hey, I want a tattoo of a gopher. And I'm like, gophers are stupid. You know, like what? That person's never going to talk to me again. And when he goes and sees anyone else, don't go to that shop. This guy told me that my gopher was stupid. I want to get a gopher tattoo.
Right.
You know, when you're a creative person, you want to have relationships with people. As a matter of fact, because of COVID, I found that in tattooing, that's why I'll sit there and an hour tattoo will take 3 hours, because I'm engaging with the person across from me, and that stuff it feeds my soul. Sure. You know, and so yeah, if there's, you know, doesn't matter what kind of music it is. If there's local music in your area, support those local artists. You know, if there's, you know, painters or, you know, poets or dancers or whatever, support those people. Those are the people that care. They're going to care about you and give you what you're looking for.
Right. And also don't fucking worry too much if X, Y, or Z thing appeals to you or not, because there's going to be something that's going to appeal to you directly. Because I think another problem, just to kind of keep it short, like, because one of the things I definitely have seen with where these, like, especially when it comes to corporations making products for people, it's like you see all these people on Twitter, especially, which, by the way, Twitter's not a real place. Go touch the grass. If you're on Twitter too much, fucking get off of it, man. Like, it's not a real place. Yeah, fucking dumpster fire. But yeah, it's like, the thing is, it's like, one of the things I resent is this idea that these pieces of media need to check off all these boxes to appeal to me. It's like, no, not everything needs to appeal to you.
Right.
Because not everything is made for you.
Yeah.
In fact, like, you've seen this conversation kind of become more prevalent, this idea that certain things should be kept, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, don't take that to mean that we should just exclude everybody except if you know, like, that kind of shit. It's like, if you want to be a part of something, fine, you're allowed to do so if you actually care.
Yeah.
You know, but the problem is, you see all these fucking, like, niches where it's like you know, they are trying to appeal to everybody, and it's like, no, that destroys communities.
Yeah,
it really does. It destroys communities. It destroys. That's why you see, like, why is it that comics are dying? It's because it's trying to appeal to everybody.
Right.
And that's like, no, that's the wrong thing to do. Same with music. Don't try to appeal to everybody, because not everyone's going to, like, for example, I know the things I like. Want to know what kind of music I like? I like fucking heavy metal, rock and roll, a little bit of, like, electronic music, like synthwave kind of shit. You know, I'll enjoy a little bit of rap, but that's not really my thing. Like that, like, imagine going to fucking BTS, that Korean band, fucking the boy band, and being like, that'd be like me going to BTS and be like, you know, I don't really like this Korean boy band shit. I wish you guys had more of a heavy metal sound to appeal to me. Fuck, I would tell that person to go fuck himself.
Yeah. Because, like, that person's supposed to go find heavy metal music.
Yeah, exactly.
That appeals to them, not disparage a different group.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's like, when I see, like, these, like, again, I see these, like, comic book stories trying to force in things or not even necessarily force things in where it doesn't belong, but, like, to try to forcibly check off a box in order to please a certain group of people that might not even care about
Which
comics
is called
to begin with.
pandering.
Yeah, it's pandering.
You know?
And that's more insulting.
Yeah, it is very insulting.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like, I've seen some really fucking weird shit. Like there's a fucking what was it? An Elektra comic book, like where I forget the guy's name, but he did the art for it, and it was really good. But apparently, he drew all the art, and it involved a lot of the Asian characters, and they look like Asians. And then because apparently Marvel has a this guideline of how to appeal to specific ethnicities, where they took like so.
That seems problematic.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds very problematic. And you know what they did? They apparently had a problem with the guy's art, and so they turned the characters' eyeballs, who are Asians, to look more basically Western, or it looks creepy. In fact, if I can, I'll make sure to show it to you because it's fucking insulting to look at. And apparently, the guy who did the art, like, he didn't get contacted about that at all.
Yeah, they just changed it.
They just fucking changed it, and it's like, and I looked at that. I'm like, if I was an Asian person and I saw that, I'd be very offended.
Yeah,
because it's like there's nothing wrong with this version of it, and yet you changed it to appeal to me, yet it didn't. I don't get it.
Right.
Like, that doesn't make sense to me at all. And it just looked ugly. Like, especially, I hate that kind of shit where you fucking ruin the integrity of what something is in order to pander to a specific group.
Yeah, and the reality is listen, people judge things.
Yeah, it's a part of life.
Part of, being human and growing up is that you judge certain things. I like this. I don't really like that. Kind of, and that's how you do it. And anyone that's creating anything, you have to realize that that's the way it is. And, there's always going to be someone who's critical of you or judges you in a way that, might not make you look the best or whatever.
Right.
And if that's a real problem for you, actually, it was what was that show? It was True Detective.
Okay.
And it was the first season with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey.
Okay, yeah.
And Matthew McConaughey's character is really focused on his job, and he's got this high kind of moral code. And Woody Harrelson's got a wife, and he's always messing around on her and drinking too much and da-da-da.
Yeah.
But he always feels that his partner, who doesn't really say much about it, except when Woody Harrelson comes into work reeking of pussy and alcohol, and he's like, Matthew McConaughey's like, the fuck, man? And that's all he really says. Yeah. And then Woody Harrelson's character gets all offended, right? And he says, Matthew McConaughey says, I'm paraphrasing too, but he said, yeah, because he's like, oh, you're gonna stand in judgment of me, which this reminds me of my youngest son, but you're gonna stand in judgment of me. He goes, listen, man, something about the esotericness of life being what it is. The fact is that everyone judges everything all the time.
Yeah.
It's what we are as people. And
Yeah.
then he said, if you have a problem with that, you're living wrong, brother.
Yeah.
And that hit, because you just have to accept it. There's going to be people that just don't like you. It's been very rare when this has happened to me, but there's been occasions over my lifetime where I just met someone and they just didn't fucking like me.
Yeah. No, I experienced that too. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and try to make the person like me.
No,
if they don't
exactly.
like me, they don't like me. I keep it moving. If you're going to make something creative, there's going to be someone who doesn't like it.
Right.
And you got to just let that go and move forward. Do the things that appeal to you. Find the creative outlets that appeal to you. Find the content or whatever that you want to take in. Make sure that it appeals to you. Make sure that it's good for you. And that's basically the gist of what I wanted to talk about. We didn't again have a guest on this week. I think next week we will.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to kind of have a day to vent.
Yeah, I hope this wasn't too fucking rambly. Because I feel we were kind of a little all over the place.
No, not really. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoy it. But and here's the thing, like, just to get it out of the way, like, listen, like, at the end of the day, I just feel, don't take everything to heart too much. Like, I think the problem is, like, especially if you go on Twitter, like, there's so many people that take everything that everyone says too fucking like hard. And it's like, dude, yeah, like you said, like, dude, everyone's gonna judge, and that's just the reality. And here's the thing: I know there's gonna be people that are gonna watch this, who are gonna listen to what we said, and are gonna judge us harshly.
Yeah, they might get offended.
And might get offended. And you know what? Good.
Yeah.
Good. Because here's the thing: it's like at the end of the day, it's not my goal to offend people.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna sacrifice my integrity to, especially like I had this moment like early on in the podcast when I had to disassociate from my mom.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that I think can doom you as a person is when you care too much about what everyone thinks about you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you just gotta be true to yourself.
Yeah.
So and especially when it comes to media, it's like just fuck worrying about what other people think.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I'll give you an extra dime.
Okay.
You got your last 2.
Okay.
Regardless of what anyone says or thinks about you, man, I think you're cool. Give me a pound.
Thank you.
Anyways, we do have some new interviews coming up. This is the Crooke and Candle podcast, where you get to hear real conversations with real artists. And that's what we're about. And we got some more interesting stuff coming up for you. And I think with that, we're going to check on out.
Yeah, we're going to close out.
Thank you, guys. We will see you next time.
Peace.